From the Beaver County Auto Studios, it is another episode of the Pirates Hot Stove Show. I'm Noah Hiles. Alongside me today is Mike Asti.
Correct, yeah.
I got it right. All right. I should have probably asked beforehand.
It can go both ways, but I like the Asti Spumante.
Okay.
Flavor.
I like that. That's good.
We'll
That's
pop
good.
some champagne, maybe.
So another show, another guest. I guess, Mike, first off, thoughts on the bobblehead today. We got Al Oliver. I brought out, an all-time classic for, you. Do you feel special about that?
You brought it just for me, personally.
Absolutely.
You thought about which one would work with you.
I thought, you're a veteran. You're scrappy.
Okay.
That was Al Oliver, my dad's favorite player right here. So shout out my dad.
Yeah,
shout out Al Oliver.
I enjoy, I approve, I appreciate it, and I also, you didn't know this, but tomorrow is my birthday, so I will consider this a birthday present.
Oh, I don't know about that, but we'll consider the.
I won't take it from you.
Yeah,
yes,
the sentiment of birthday
I
present.
will borrow it for the next 40 minutes.
All right, so we'll get right into it, Mike. I hate to start your birthday off on a bad note, but
Okay.
I must inform you,
Okay.
Machado. Probably not going to be a Pittsburgh Pirate. That's where we'll start. The Pirates were rumored last week for just a little bit that they could have been the mystery team in on Manny Machado. John Heyman informed the public that is indeed a false rumor. Your thoughts?
Well, was it emotional for you when you saw that tweet?
No, I mean I just saw it, and I mean it just there's no way that was happening.
It was a fun 3 to 6 hour period.
I wasn't even.
But I never believed it either. Yeah, and I even found it funny that when I quote tweeted that tweet, there were actually people who were still arguing about it. There were people saying, "Well, does he really know? Does he have more sources than a Dominican friend of Machado? Maybe, maybe not. But are you going to bet that it's going to happen?" I mean, it's a pretty easy bet that that's probably not. The Pirates are probably not the mystery team, and it's probably not going to happen. It was interesting. And I guess there's somewhat sense could be maybe made about it, but they're just not going to do that. That'd be incredibly uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
And I'd have to see it to believe it, so I'm not going to predict it. No,
Yeah.
I never figured
He
that out.
would probably, whenever he does get signed, he will make in a year what almost the entire starting infield would make.
Right.
I mean, and it's just the thought that they would sign a guy like that to a deal that the Yankees aren't willing to make or offer, or the Phillies, teams in big markets. And not to say, like you said, they could do that, and their payroll still could be, just over $100 million a year.
And we've seen this in sports with small market teams and players who are big stars that maybe are not sure of what team they want to go to and don't want to commit to a long-term deal with a team maybe that's not a winner. Maybe they would go with a team for maybe the conversation could maybe have been that I maybe would believe it more if it's a 1 or 2 year deal.
But that's not what he's looking for.
And then let him decide again. But no, that's not what he's looking at. And if he's going to go with a team that is not really a winner, that is still trying to build things, the White Sox are there.
Yeah.
They're offering the money. I guess I'll ask you this, and to any fans out there who kind of believe it or were arguing with me, if you're Manny Machado, why would you sign with the Pirates?
They would have to offer you more money than anyone, more length. Those are the two things. That's the thing that everyone's claiming why he has not signed yet. It's no one's thrown in that 8th year. It's always been 7-year deals that have been reported. The White Sox didn't even offer him that 8th year. Everyone, and I mean, in all reality, you're signing the guy till he's 33 years old. You're getting rid of him right when he's done with his prime.
Right.
I think that would probably be not the worst move to add an 8th year. But what the heck do I know?
Yeah, you had the 8th year to try to get him. If that's going to be the hang-up.
But Machado, for Machado to come here, I think not only would they have to offer him more money, they'd have to offer him more length, and they'd probably have to sign someone else before him to basically build up that deal. Basically, tell him we are all in. We are all in. We're not coming. You're not going to sit around here and wait. We're ready to win now. Yeah. So you'd have to probably get a player before Machado to sway him to show that you're in win now mode, because that's where he wants to go.
And I think John Heyman again liked kind of popping the balloon for a lot of Pirate fans. I'll say that. The interesting thing as well, though, as I put our graphic up, is if you're the Pirates or if you're a Pirate fan, do you really want that to happen when you think about it? Is him coming over really going to help you win right now?
Yeah. I think so. I think that
in terms of the playoffs or in terms of winning more?
I think winning more. I mean, if you won 5 or 6 more games, the Pirates were in the playoff conversation down to the last week of the season.
Okay.
And I know that the goal should be World Series, the goal should be division titles. But when you're a franchise that's made the playoffs 3 times, I'm 23 years old, Mike, and I've seen them play like a total of 7 playoff games in my life. 8.
Right.
And that's nuts. So, yes, competing for a wild card position is something that this team should take serious. If it's a move that can get you into the playoffs, no matter how or how many games, you should do it. And Machado's a team. This team needs a better defensive middle infielder. He would provide that. This team needs any kind of power. He would provide that. He would be a middle of the lineup bat that you can rely on. I mean, he is everything this team would need, and he's not old. He's 26. He would still be one of the younger players on the team. I don't know. I think, it's a perfect fit, and they should have done it, but there's no way it's happening. Another thing that's not happening as we move forward is the Pirates, for, again, just a little bit, were rumored to be speaking to the Los Angeles Dodgers about trading Starling Marte. This rumor actually did worry me a little bit. For nothing else, the Dodgers made a trade with Cincinnati. They offloaded a couple outfielders. They were rumored to be the favorites for Harper for a little bit. You've seen them kind of go to the back seat in that, so they definitely still are looking for an outfielder. I mean, they have guys like Bellinger, like Taylor, who can play infield and outfield, and not to mention the young guys like Peterson and Max Muncy. I mean, they have depth there already, but they're never content. They're the Los Angeles Dodgers. They would be willing to make a deal for a Marte, but if the Pirates were to trade Starling Marte, that would indicate to me that they're already waving the flag. And I don't think they're the white flag. They're already mailing the season in, because they don't. I mean, who are they going to? They're already without Polanco in right field. Getting rid of your center fielder, that's not going to be good. So I don't see the Pirates making that move. I didn't really believe it when I saw it, but it did worry me, because it's like, if they did do that, then this is going to be a miserable summer down at the North Shore.
And it would have been another one of those moves that it would be hard for them to sell PR-wise, and what worried me is it came around the same time that Huntington was making comments about how they were a playoff team for 3 out of 9 years. He was doing some weird math.
Yeah, he said they were the ninth best team over the last 8 years or something like that.
8 years. Yeah, so he was throwing that PR, so I was thinking in my head, he's trying to sell a manipulative PR spin. Maybe that's intentional prior to a move like this, because Marte, despite being a great player, has had the suspension. He has had injuries. He's not always on the field, and he is getting close to that age where they do consider maybe being done with somebody. Another contract may or may not happen with Marte. So it wouldn't totally bewildered me. And the fact of what you mentioned, the Dodgers are always in win-now mode.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson and company always wants to win now. That's the entire reason why he's involved. That's the entire reason why they're the Dodgers now. They've won back-to-back pennants, but since winning back-to-back pennants, they've really just sold. I mean, they have still a depth of a core.
They've won with their young talent, though.
They won with their young talent, but Matt Kemp helped them last year.
Yeah.
They still, adding him last year was a decent piece. He added pop in their bat, and they moved him over to the Reds, so they've really mostly just sold, and I could maybe believe that a guy like Marte would be somebody that if they still maybe would want a veteran, that he would help them. So there was some seconds of belief that I did have in that. It doesn't appear that's going to happen either. That's been dispelled. So we'll see. But the Pirates' offseason so far has kind of been a lot of rumors and a lot of innuendo and a lot of things that may or may not occur, but been a little moot.
Now, let me ask you this. Say the offer was, and this has not been reported by anyone but my brain right now, Marte for a player like Chris Taylor, who could also provide an immediate impact, and he could play shortstop and outfield, 2 positions that they would need.
Right, and shortstop's a big need.
Yeah. So would you do a deal like that if it were for Marte, or is Marte a guy that you're not getting rid of?
Honestly, if I'm trying, it depends on where their mentality is, and nobody really knows this unless you're them, which is part of the debate in Pittsburgh the last several and even more years. It depends on what your thought process is. If you're trying to do whatever you can to get into the playoffs and crawl into a wild card and then see what happens, you want to get as many wins as you can right now, I don't feel like you can spin trading Marte.
No,
there's almost no way. Even if it would somehow work out analytically, I just don't think that that's a smart move to make. Individually, he's the better player. Individually, he's more ready right now to produce. When he is on the field for a full season, if that ever does happen, you would figure his overall numbers would do more for you, and I just don't think that's something you can do. Now, if you, in your heart of hearts, feel like you're not a playoff team and you're going to be trying to rebuild and that's more of where you're going, then maybe that move would make sense. But that's not what the fan base is going to want them to be thinking. No one really knows what is in their head, though. But it depends. If you really want to make the playoffs, if you're doing the no Hiles, then no, I wouldn't do it.
So I have on my third point for rumors, there's no rumors with the Pirates. And see, people could take that two ways. It's one, when the Pirates' names aren't connected to anyone around this time of the year, they assume they're done. Right. But what I look at it as, they have their targets. It's just they're waiting a little bit longer, which transitions me to my next point on my notes here. I think the month of March is going to be very exciting for Major League Baseball, because I think that's when you're going to see guys like Harper, Machado, Keuchel. These guys are going to get their deals then. I think the biggest free agent last season was J.D. Martinez.
Yeah.
I mean, Stanton was the biggest name involved that was available, but that was a trade. So J.D. Martinez, he didn't sign until March, till players were, in spring training. Jake Arrieta was another one. He didn't go to the Phillies. And I know J.D. Martinez only got like the 1-year deal with an option, I believe. But then Arrieta got a multi-year deal. And he signed pretty late into spring training, if I'm not mistaken. So
well baseball hasn't really had an offseason with two premier, legit superstars and one in a top 10 conversation in a while.
And both of these guys are top 10, and they're both under 27 years old.
Right. So this is kind of...
You're not only getting a superstar when you sign these guys, but past free agents that are quote-unquote superstar caliber, they're normally 28, 29, maybe even in their early 30s. Right. So you're getting an Albert Pujols, but you're only going to get the Albert Pujols or the Cardinals for a couple seasons.
Right.
These guys, you can make the argument for both Harper and Machado that you're getting the best that they're able to. That's why it's exciting, and it's been disappointing that no one's really gone after them. And I think that while it's going to be exciting to see where they go in March, I think the Pirates are also planning to make moves in March. That's my thing. You look at the last couple of seasons in the offseason, I believe it was... They signed Freeze in 2016 in March, and that ended up being a decent pickup. He stuck with the team for a couple years. Yeah. And then last March, they made probably one of their better trades that they've had in a while, and that was acquiring Corey Dickerson from the Rays. Right, yeah, and no one expected that. Everyone just assumed, they signed all these minor league outfielders. It's going to be Luplow, it's going to be Frazier, it's going to be a handful of guys they're going to platoon. And then they go and they get a guy who was an all-star last year in a trade, and he hit 300, he won a Gold Glove. So the Pirates, I don't think, are done. I don't think that they're not even necessarily not looking right now. I think they are looking. I think they're just kind of keeping quiet and seeing what guys of similar level of talent that are going for guys like Freddie Galvis, Jose Iglesias. You look, Asdrubal Cabrera signed a deal with the Rangers for less than $5 million a year. He hit 23 home runs last season, and he's above average glove that you could play at second base, you could play at shortstop, you could play at third. So I think they see that deal, and they're going to say, all right, we're going to wait a little bit, and we're going to let them get a little bit more desperate. And once you start seeing there not being multiple options, like Galvis or Iglesias, once one of them gets signed, I think that's when you're going to see the Pirates' names. I'm not saying they're going to sign either one of them. I'm saying you're going to see their names attached a little bit more to Iglesias or Freddie Galvis, or maybe even a starting pitcher. If Gio Gonzalez is still around, or Wade Miley, those are guys that I could see the Pirates paying 1 year for $8 million.
Yeah, he kind of fits
something
into that
like that.
Name veteran player that's not anywhere near carrying the cachet he would have 3 or 4 years ago, but could fall to a Pirates.
But a 1 year deal for $10 million at most, for someone like him, I could see happening. Marwin Gonzalez, another guy who's still available. Wade Miley is someone that I think would be a perfect Pirates signing because he's not what he once was, but he had a pretty good year in Milwaukee last season. 16 starts, I believe. He had went 6-2, an ERA under 3. So you could look at him, and they don't have a lot of lefties. So Wade Miley, a lefty to that starting rotation. There are guys out there, is what I'm trying to get at.
Does it hinge on Harper, Machado, or at least one of those dominants falling first?
I think they want to know. They want to know what other teams are doing. The Pirates aren't.
Which again may hinge on those two guys.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yes, they want to know.
The domino may fall. That also may decide money.
Yeah, they want to know who they're going to have to compete against when they try to sign a guy like Iglesias or Galvis. So if the Phillies don't get Machado,
Right.
and they're thinking, okay, well, the Phillies are going to want to get Iglesias, so now we now need to go all in towards Galvis.
Right.
I think that's what they're doing here. They're waiting for someone else to make the first move. They're kind of like the vultures. They're waiting for the lion to pounce on the gazelle, and then they're going to come in and take the scraps off. It's not the best thing to hear as a fan, but that's kind of the reality of it, where the Pirates are going to get the sloppy seconds of what's left over. And, those sloppy seconds, at the end of the day, they're probably going to be better than Kevin Newman. They're going to be better than Nick Kingham in the starting rotation or whoever else. So I'm excited. I think they make one more move in March. It could be via trade like they've done in the past, or it could be a free agent signing to like a quick 1-2 year deal.
It might still be a while, though, because the weird thing about this free agent year, when you have guys like Harper and Machado, and Harper carries even a different level than Machado, not necessarily as a player, but Harper
as a brand.
Harper brings a brand. He brings a Ken Griffey Jr. type of brand with him that he can get his face on video games and marketing. You can make money with him off the field, even if he could get hurt and you could still make money.
Yeah.
So that's a difference of him that really it would bring a lot to a new franchise, especially now in these years that are going to be his prime years, that when we look back at his career in 20, 30 years, these might actually be his best years. And there's a belief with him that while he's had an MVP year and he's certainly a great player, that there's still more to be there. With his hype so much before he started, there's an argument he hasn't actually reached his hype.
No, and that's because of injuries and everything.
Right, but I mean that could maybe still happen in terms of his age. So this is a big deal. And unlike in other years when there's free agents available, the Yankees and those quintessential teams that are always around, they don't really have a need position-wise for these guys. It would only be doing it because they're major stars that they would find a way to throw them on the team, like with the A-Rod years ago. But there's not really a need right now, and those teams are not necessarily willing to just chuck money for no reason, like maybe they would have been in the 90s. So that's why we're having this extend longer, and that's why teams like the Phillies and those teams are involved, and it looks like potentially even the favorite. Or there's right now rumblings Harper might actually go back to Washington.
Yeah.
They're not out of the question, and if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have bet all the money I had he was not going to go back to Washington.
Oh, yeah.
So that could maybe be an interesting situation if that does happen, and that would change the market. And again, that would need dominoes to then fall before he gets to the Pirates. So that's extending this offseason. And the only difference now would be if that takes longer than normal like it is, does that maybe leave the Pirates in a little bit of a doomsday scenario in terms of the fans running wild on social media, where they would go into spring training without the Dickerson move being done, without those moves being done.
I mean, they've done that the last couple of years.
They have.
And it didn't go over well.
They really hit on Dickerson, though, and it's going to be hard to do that again. But yeah, Gold Glove, All-Star, they couldn't have done better with that.
Here's the thing. And this kind of brings it in to what we're going to talk about next, where the Pirates in the last couple of years have not entered spring training on the best of PR-related notes. I mean, before
it's been really bad.
They came in, they came in the last year. And they had nothing to show for their last offseason aside from, trading away Kutch and Cole. And the Dickerson thing made things a little bit better. But there wasn't a lot of faith in the Pirates by many people. And, that's kind of going to be the same thing again, I believe, as Vegas has them tied with the Reds for last place favorites of the National League Central. They're over-under total is 77.5 wins this year. That's a little bit higher, I believe, than it was last year. I don't think that's crazy. I probably would have had it around 80 myself. But then you look about the entire division, the Cubs really haven't done much. The Cardinals got significantly better.
Yeah,
the Brewers got better.
Right.
The Reds making more moves than anyone this offseason to add, not subtract. They bring on Puig. They bring on Alex Wood, Sonny Gray, Matt Kemp.
Right.
So, I don't necessarily disagree with what Vegas did here, putting them even with the Cincinnati Reds. I will say this, though. The Pirates are a better team.
Than the Reds?
Yes, okay. Significantly better. I don't think adding Matt Kemp, he was an all-star last year. He had good numbers, but he lost his he lost his starting job in the playoffs.
He did.
And Puig, I don't see him sticking around very long in Cincinnati.
Doesn't feel like a Cincinnati
Does
guy.
not. No, he's not going to be.
Skyline chili.
Yeah, he's not going to be
eating
eating Skyline chili too much. I think
good,
he's
though.
gone in
I think
July.
every day.
I think he's gone in July.
Probably.
Alex Wood and Sonny Gray, those are reclamation projects at the end of the day, I think, more than anything else. And Cincinnati hasn't been able to get anything right with a pitcher in the last, ever since Johnny Cueto dropped that baseball, really. So I don't know. I don't think the Reds are legit. I don't buy into it. But then again, I don't think the Pirates have done much to get better either.
That's where I kind of would disagree. That I don't think the Reds are legit in terms of they're going to be a playoff team or they're going to compete with the Cardinals or even the Cubs, who, while they didn't do anything, they still have a better roster than most, and they're still a great team that's going to be around. But the moves, and Puig may be dealt in July. I guess the only way he wouldn't be, and this whole Reds offseason is very reminiscent of when the Seattle Mariners a few years ago, or actually almost a decade ago, really, it seemed like they were really going to go for it when Griffey
shout out
was
to
there
my good friend Jack Zarensic.
Okay.
Going for it.
Cliff Lee was brought in, and they had some pieces, and they're keeping the concerts away from the venue in October.
Yeah, I mean,
yet all of a sudden it didn't go anywhere, and they traded.
Yeah, I mean, you see this every year.
That could happen again. Now the only difference is Sonny Gray. It seems like he might be there a little longer than midseason. I could easily see Puig being dealt. It depends on how much of a contender they are, or if they're even close to it. But to be better than the Pirates, that's only really asking to be second to worst in the division, realistically. And they have more veterans. They have more name recognition. They're not necessarily better on paper for what they're going to do this coming season. But it'll be probably a close race. And if they don't deal those guys midseason because they're way out of it, I then could see them being ahead of the Pirates at the end of the year. It'll depend on which type of Sonny Gray they get. Do they get the Oakland A's Sonny Gray? Do they get the Yankees Sonny Gray? You figure he's going to have more of an opportunity now to be better out of the American League East, to be maybe out of the New York pressure, but he'll get some pressure there.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's a baseball town. I know that it's not the New York media, but like I said, I think what I brought up with the pitching, it's who has had success.
Right.
And it's not like he's going from pitching in Yankee Stadium to Petco Park. Great American Ballpark is a tough place to pitch.
Yeah, sure,
and so I think that, Kemp, I don't know. I don't really have much faith in Kemp. Puig
He's going to hit more home runs there.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone's going to hit. I don't know. I don't think Kemp.
Reds
I don't think Kemp has
years.
much baseball left in him. Period.
Okay.
And I don't think Puig is going to be there long, even if the Reds. Because in all reality, even if the Reds are better than the Pirates, if Matt Kemp is good, unless the Reds are within like 2 games of a playoff spot around the trade deadline, Puig isn't sticking around there. He doesn't want to be there, and they're going to flip him for something else.
That's true, and I don't even know if Matt Kemp would want to be there.
Reds don't. I mean, the Reds still have some young guys to look forward to. I don't think they view this core that they have. While they do have some talented bats, they're not looking at the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Brewers and saying to themselves, we can compete game for game with these guys.
These, I will say, there were smart moves for the Reds.
They were. I mean, they're going to sell more tickets.
Because they're going to not only are they going to sell more tickets, they absolutely will. They might be able to hoodwink some fans into going early in the season, but they probably were thinking to themselves, we'll sell more tickets, we'll get more people here, because their attendance was really, really bad, like the Pirates recently. And if we maybe could try to win with these guys, then who knows? Or if we don't win with these guys, then we'll trade them all and we'll be able to rebuild again off of more valuable pieces. They're probably thinking that at the very least, we could try to almost fool a general manager on another team to give us more than they're really worth mid-season, which if you do, great. If you don't, oh well. They're not losing much from these guys, so it's a low-risk situation with most of them.
And I think it will be interesting to see the dynamic between the Pirates and the Reds because, one team notices that they're not the favorite to win their division, so they try to stay as similar as they were to last year's group.
Right.
And that's what the Pirates are doing. Maybe make a couple additions here or there.
Right.
And the Reds are doing all these big name things. 2015, that team's winning the World Series, the Cincinnati Reds, with Joey Votto and Puig and everything.
It's a good team, yeah.
But I mean,
4 years ago,
it's not 2015 anymore.
No.
So we'll close off the show. We'll talk about some all around the league news. Hall of Fame voting comes out a couple days ago. Mariano Rivera, unanimous. First unanimous player ever voted into Cooperstown. Mike, real quick, your thoughts.
there should have been obviously more unanimous guys throughout the years. I mean,
Yeah.
11 guys didn't vote for Babe Ruth. 3 guys didn't vote for Griffey. And
Yeah.
I do understand the difference of generations.
One guy didn't vote for Greg Maddux simply because he played in the steroid era.
Right.
Not because he was connected to it, because he
Right.
said, I can't vote for anyone in that
Yeah,
era.
and there were guys it's hard to
Get
compare
outta here.
generations because there were guys that admitted they didn't vote for Mickey Mantle because he drank beer a lot.
And there's people who didn't vote for Willie Mays because,
Right. I mean, nobody had 100% prior to Manny Rivera, and the only rationale I can come up with to get all of those guys and the crazy rationale to give Rivera 100% is there's not really we all love to debate everything. There's really not a debate in terms of closer and position with a bulletproof resume who did it all against Rivera. So, or at least they're not going to argue it. So they might have felt more comfortable that they felt like he's the quote-unquote GOAT of closers, so we'll let him be 100%, whereas a guy like Griffey is a great player, but he wasn't the best center fielder of all time. I don't know if that's their rationale. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm happy somebody cracked this glass ceiling, and maybe Jeter will too, and he's not the best shortstop of all time, but the more 100%'s fine, because they're clear first ballot Hall of Famers. There should have been other 100% guys throughout the years, and I do even understand that one of the voters with Griffey actually said that he didn't vote for Griffey because he didn't think he needed his vote, which I guess somewhat could make sense, but I would not be able to be in that room and not pull the trigger on those guys. It just doesn't make sense, but whatever.
As far as Rivera, I think that you're starting to see those guys who didn't vote because he wasn't. No one gets my first ballot. No one gets in on the first ballot. You're starting to see those, prudes, I guess, to say it lightly. They're not around anymore. So you're starting.
Cronies?
Yeah.
Use the word cronies?
Yeah, they're not around anymore. So you're starting to get a lot more logical voters. I think that's a big part of it. And I think another big part of it has to do with how guys treated the media. You never hear one bad thing about Mariano Rivera.
No, that's
and
big.
that's I think the same thing. I think Jeter, as you brought him up, Jeter's the next guy to get 100% in because Derek Jeter, I mean, a kid who grew up in the late 90s, or, early 2000s or whatever. Everyone wanted to be Derek Jeter. There was not a bad thing about him. Sure, he dated the supermodels. He played shortstop for the Yankees.
And he played in New York away from the tabloids.
Away from the tabloids. And he was the classy guy on and off the field, the captain. Tip your cap to him.
That's why I did think
he was
Griffey might have
able.
been the first
And
100%
he was
guy,
able to manage the media, and I think that you're going to see guys like that who treated the media with class, who weren't flashy off the field, who weren't controversial.
Right.
They're going to get a lot of votes that they wouldn't have got in the past. They're going to win over, So I do think that that's going to, and you're starting to see just people be a little bit more sensible with, Bonds and Clemens into the 59% now. They got 3 more tries to get in, and
my only thing I will say though is I'm a little bit more pessimistic than what I've been hearing and where you're coming with that. They didn't move up that much from where they were a season ago and even 2 years before that. They went from 40 to the mid-50s jump. That was big. But honestly, when they released the ballot of about half the voters, which included a lot more millennial type of voters, younger voters, they were about 70%. Once you got all the old cronies who are still alive in, they moved down to 59.5, almost 60%. That's still going to be a decent, significant jump for them to get over 75 with only 3 more years left on the ballot. I do think those guys like Fred McGriff, even who's a guy I think doesn't get enough love, they're going to get in eventually. If Harold Baines can get in, they're probably going to eventually get in on the later quote unquote modern day, the previous Veterans Day committee. Those people are probably going to elect them eventually, and this is weird to say, if one of them would die, they would actually have a better chance. Because there are some guys that don't even believe in analytics, like, for example, Mad Dog Russo on the MLB Network debate. He brought up the fact that he votes different than our group, but he said his only trepidation is he doesn't want them to get a ceremony and get a whole day. And I've been to Cooperstown. It is a 3-day parade for one individual. People are crying for them. He doesn't want that for them, so if they're dead, they then obviously wouldn't have it. They may a little bit, but it wouldn't be the same. Dumb. So I don't know if that would help them.
That's dumb. Here's the thing.
That is stupid.
For all those people who say they don't deserve their day to cheer, think about, as a Pirates fan, you grew up watching the Pirates, right? Yeah. How much joy did Barry Bonds bring you in the early 90s when he was winning MVPs, when he was taking them on deep playoff runs? Right. You can't put everything else past them to just say thank you and give them their time to recognize them. But you'll do it for guys like Tris Speaker and Ty Cobb, right, and like just notable bad guys. I mean, come on.
I mean,
come on, Mad Dog. You're better than that. I was always a Mike guy myself.
The only thing I will say, though, what I don't understand is, and I get that they're certainly the best two of if not ever, of their generations, that they're approaching being closer, and there's more of a welcoming for them than the others. But a guy like Manny Ramirez is way down there in percentage, 22%. Now, I certainly agree that Sammy Sosa was a steroid monster, and without steroids wouldn't have had those numbers. But still, there are guys that either save baseball or put a lot of numbers up that if there was no cloud, they would have been slam dunk Hall of Famers. Their percentages being so incredibly low, I'm more of a guy that it's either all in or all out.
So here's my thing. You brought up percentages.
Necessarily Bonds and Clemens and nobody else.
You brought up percentages. I think perception does play a factor into this. I think that if next year Clemens and Bonds get into the 60%, I think you will see some guys say, you know what, enough people are willing to look past it. Maybe this is a me issue. Maybe I should just start voting for them as well.
Maybe.
I do think if they start,
down there.
Yeah, but again, and if you see people in the 20s after the third, fourth, fifth ballot still, like you're seeing Manny, I think this was his third ballot, right. And then Sammy Sosa's on his seventh. When you're seeing Sammy after 7. Not being able to crack 30%, I think people are saying, "I'm done. I'm done campaigning for him. I'm done. I'm giving my vote to other people, regardless of what I think." And I think that other people, especially in this next year, aside from Jeter, there's not a lot of big names in this class.
No, and I don't think they'd want him in with Jeter.
But I'm just saying. You're gonna have people in the upcoming class like this next year when there's only one notable new guy. You have more votes to expand, and I think once you see those percentages get close to 60, people are gonna start thinking, you know what, maybe I should be able to get over this if everyone else is too. At least I'm hoping so. Me personally, I put in Manny Ramirez. I know what he did, but like Manny Ramirez, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all those guys, you can't tell the story of a game without them. If you can't get over the fact that they cheated a little bit, put an asterisk on their plaque. And
I wouldn't be
tell that as part of the story.
Yeah, see, again, you can't tell the baseball story without those guys. It is part of the history of the game.
But
you couldn't do a
steroids are a part of their story.
You couldn't do a World War II museum without Adolf Hitler being discussed, at least. But I will say, and this has been argued by Bonds, that he has publicly said if it's on his plaque, he doesn't want in. Mm-hmm. So I would almost force that hand. Well, I would put it on I'm not going to live a lie. Like, in my opinion, and I know how great they were prior, and I would have no problem with them being celebrated at this point. However, I do not believe that as great as he was, he would have the single season or all-time home run record if he never juiced.
Okay.
So I'd want it on the plaque.
So here's the thing. If Bonds says, I don't want in, what are you going to do? Like, Barry, we're putting you in the Hall of Fame regardless. You can show up or not.
I would force that.
Yeah. Like, you can, like...
And I think he would probably
But I think it's for guys who got caught. Like a Ryan Braun in the future, or Manny Ramirez got caught. A-Rod. David Ortiz even, people forget about that.
He doesn't get enough hate.
And like... All of those guys who got caught. Bonds technically never got caught. He never admitted to it. Clemens technically never tested positive.
There's a
never admitted to
test out there that can be used in court.
But regardless, those guys, whatever. But like the players today, it's part of their story, but they're also part of baseball's story. Why choose what to hide? Why not just tell everything? And it could be a lesson for young kids. Like, this guy was incredible, but like, he had some bad sides. Why you're doing a disservice, ironically enough, by not telling this part of
for sure.
Good and bad. So.
I just think that does go part of it being on the plaque. So as I said, I would literally force Bonds' hand. If he gets inducted, I would put it on the plaque. Even if
you know what you need to do? You send Jim Leland down there, and you smacks him around again like that video in spring training in '92. And cuss him out, throw a glove at him, and he'll fall in line.
He could even do the video, and him and Dusty Baker would do the video for him. But I would force it where if you're going to tell the story and you don't want, I would have it on the plaque. And if he doesn't want it on the plaque, then put
Here's
it in
what he
anyway.
does. If he doesn't want it on the plaque, we send him out to Atlanta, and we put Sid Bream on second, and he gets another try to throw out Sid Bream. And if he throws him out, then write whatever you want on your plaque. If not, you're going to the Hall of Fame and you're a cheater.
I hear you. That would
be good. That's how you grow the game, folks.
That would also how you get younger people to know about history of the game.
Yes, exactly.
It would be nice.
We're really getting somewhere here.
I would do that, but I would just need it on the plaque because I do not believe that as great as he was, even the legendary players that already would have been Hall of Famers without juicing, they still were able to be enhanced in a way by juicing. It's still his only 50 home run season, the year he hit 73. So I don't believe there was a body of work to prove he would have had a 73 home run season without juicing. Granted, the record he broke was also by a guy who juiced. So the whole thing, you can't just ignore history of the game.
Yeah.
So I would want it on the plaque, but I would want it to be all or nothing. There are people out there who do the Bonds, Clemens, and nobody else. I'm not with that.
Yeah, I agree.
That ignores
put in Manny,
everybody else.
Put in Sosa, put in McGuire.
Just because they're not as great as Bond does not mean they weren't Hall of Fame level players who should get recognized. So that's something. And I as much as it used to annoy me, the only good thing about the modern day committee opening up their doors to a guy like Harold Baines, who I don't believe is worthy of being a Hall of Famer, but the only positive there is, I don't think Bonds and Clemens are going to get through this threshold in these next 3 years. Fred McGriff is now not clearly going to be. He's off the ballot now. So it appears that group is going to correct the wrongs of these voters.
Yeah.
So it appears those doors eventually will be open to all of them, either the borderline guys, the controversial guys, whoever, whereas otherwise it wouldn't have been. But I think potentially there might be a weird thinking now between some of those older voters that a guy like A-Rod, who has admitted it, who has been suspended, they may weirdly feel we've already punished those guys or punished even some of them. Maybe they feel like maybe they might let him in on his last year, but they might feel like making him wait 9 years is their form of weird punishment because he was never suspended, even though we all know it kind of happened. I don't know what's in their head.
Yeah.
But if it's a big jump. It's a big jump from 59 to 75.
I love BBWA psychology. I mean, I love breaking down the thoughts and emotions of baseball writers. It's incredible. I'm dead serious. I'm trying to give
it's
hard. Like, I just want to sit them down and just be like,
we were in this room.
Someone cheated when they were playing wiffle ball when they were like 7, and they're just like, I will never, ever condone cheating in baseball ever again. That's my
not
thing.
Like what I think people do get. I think they may think too much of by putting somebody in the Hall of Fame. It's not. There's no brick wall with a ranking of this person. If I agree to put him in, they must be ranked number 1 all time. I mean, that's just for us to know or to debate. Putting him in is just putting him into a museum. There is no.
We're not going to forget they did steroids.
There's not 10 commandments. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Bonds thinks for a second that by not putting it on his plaque means that years later we're going to take our grandkids in and we're not going to bring up the fact that, Granddad Noah, why did Bonds hit 49 home runs, then all of a sudden he hit 73 the next season? That seems odd.
He changed his launch angle and, sabermetrics.
Yeah, there's those things involved, but there may also have been some chemicals that were helping him at least stay on the field. Yeah. There may have been some things that were adding some strength to him, which he still had to work out to do. It helped the ball go further.
Yeah.
There may have been some enhancing things, so we're going to tell that story, and I'm going to say it whether it's on the plaque or not. Now, I feel it should be on the plaque, whether he likes it or not. He has put himself in a corner.
And if you didn't test positive for it, just mention that some speculated. I mean, the literature, or just create a wing. Create a wing for the steroid era. I don't know. There's a million things you could do.
There's things you can do, yeah, but I would have
to round out the show. To round out the show, want to give a special shout out to my boy Jason Bay. Unfortunately, he got 0 votes. 0 votes. But he had my vote if I was in it because
in years past that guy would have got 1 or 2 votes.
That was
the difference too.
The best Pirates player that I got to watch until McCutcheon. So,
out of curiosity, because you're a little younger than me, but it seems like you're also kind of a Hall of Fame historian. What are your thoughts on Andrew Jones? Because we've already brought up Fred McGriff.
Okay.
He's another one of those guys that literally after age 30, he was nothing. But prior to that, he was a poor man's Ken Griffey Jr.
Here's my thing.
He had 10 Gold Gloves.
Every dynasty, every notable team for an era, I feel like has an Andrew Jones. Like you look at the 70 Steelers, Andrew Jones is equivalent to like Rocky Blyer on those teams.
Is he like a Bernie Williams was?
That's exactly a Bernie Williams.
Similar era.
And everyone talks about that.
Are a little better.
Yeah, but the core four for the Yankees was Pettit, Posada, Jeter, and Mo. And now the Braves, they had those three pitchers, and then they had Andrew Jones, they had David Justice, they had all those guys. But Andrew Jones was that guy that even in the 2000s during the end of Bobby Cox's run, he was like an MVP, I believe, one year. He led the league in home runs one year.
Chipper was MVP. I don't think.
Okay, but regardless, I think that Andrew Jones is someone that you remember more for the team than individually. Good, very, very, very good career. And I guess if you're going to put Harold Baines in, maybe put Andrew Jones in. I think that Andrew Jones is not the type of player that an Edgar Martinez was, that a Derek Jeter was, that those guys who were just a bit above him. And so that's why I don't put him in, but I do recognize that Andrew Jones, he was the man for a while in baseball on a very good team.
I mean, it sucks to say, and it wouldn't really have changed how great of a player he is, but if he would have been able to do a little bit more once he got the contract and the move to the Dodgers, and even just puttered around and hit more home runs even just as a starter before he became a utility player, he might get more votes.
Yeah.
He really fell off. It's a bizarre career.
And I think that
he fell off after 31. He had a 50 home run season, and then he was not 3 years later, he was literally a utility player.
You hear that
That's weird. I think the 10 gold gloves is the only thing that helps him a little bit, but I wouldn't vote for him. And even pitcher contrasts of the Mike Mussinas and those guys, they were better over extended periods of time, even though they also had smaller chunks of pure dominance. Even Doc Holliday, who was a dominant pitcher, but it was a smaller 3 or 4 year stretch of being maybe the best in the game. Andrew could have maybe argued that as an overall player in maybe the late 90s, but he just did nothing else after that, and it does kill him.
When you're on a team like the ones he was on,
helps,
it helps you get exposure, but you think of those 90s Braves teams, the early 2000s Braves teams, he's at best the 5th player that gets brought up. You think of the 3 pitchers, you think of McGriff, you think of Chipper Jones, you think of all.
Some may think of him ahead of McGriff, depending on how old depending.
But like that's the thing where teams with that much talent, that's why Bernie Williams won't ever get in, because he's going to lose votes to all of those other really great Yankees that he played with. And you're going to see that from people who played on the early 2000s Red Sox. You're going to see that from people who played on the Cardinals with Albert Pujols. And, when you play with
Jim Edmonds,
so many.
Hurting him.
Yeah, Scott Rowland is going to miss votes because of that too.
Scott Rowland.
There's all of those guys who played with other great players. Right. There's going to be someone who loses votes because they think they benefited from this. They benefited because they played with a lot of better people, or you just kind of get forgot about because you were the 5th best player on your team, even though you're really good too.
Because they will lose votes when we're dealing with hundreds of people and we're dealing with the writers and everyone different opinions of generations. It'll be interesting how those guys fare when you get to the modern day committee with the Roberto Alomar and Tony La Russa or whoever's on that at that time.
Yeah.
You're going to have more, and this is what helped Harold Baines, whether they want to admit it or not. You're going to have more of their friends and maybe those former Hall of Fame. Albert Pujols might be on that committee that day.
Yeah.
So
Albert's not going to have a problem.
But that's what I mean. He might on that committee fight for Jim Edmonds.
Yeah.
So they might have more of an opportunity on those committees. And maybe someday, 20 years from now, they may get in, even if they weren't voted in the normal way. So those doors are a little bit more open now after Lee Smith and Harold Baines than they would have been before. So there's a lot of things going on with the difference of generation. A lot of those guys that weren't getting enough credit, like an Edgar Martinez, like even a Doc Holliday getting first ballot despite his death, like a Mike Mussina, they're getting their just due now. I think it's not necessarily helping Bonds and Clemens as much as maybe some others do, but it is helping them a little bit in percentage. And those guys are getting some love in the modern day committee, but it is also opening up the door for maybe too many of those guys to get in, where now they're watering it down a little bit. But I guess nobody can ever get their way 100%. We mean, you got to pick the good with the bad, but we'll see where they go then.
To kind of close things off, I listened to an interview over a year ago with Curt Schilling, and they asked him if he was a Hall of Famer. And he said, no. And they said, why would you say that about yourself? And he just said, when a Hall of Famer is someone where there's no debate. And I kind of like that, where if you say a name, Ken Griffey Jr., Hall of Fame.
Right.
If you have to go, well, this guy got in, so he should have got in. It's not a he said, she said. It's not a comparison. Is this
Granted,
guy...
there was a debate on Edgar. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for me, but there are some guys that got
Edgar Martinez, best designated hitter up to this point that's been eligible to go into the Hall of Fame, statistically.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
he's...
Big Papi will be
Big Papi is
later.
the best designated hitter ever, so he should also go in. But he's not eligible yet.
He's not eligible, sure.
But yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. And if you bird box me, put the blindfold on and you said Andrew Jones, I'd say no. Excellent.
We're
excellent.
doing that.
I'm all for that.
I'm actually all in on that. I might force that hand in the future.
Sounds
we'll
good.
See. No,
I'm the young guy. You can haze me. It's all right. I'm willing to take on the rookie punishment a little bit.
I love that. And it's not just baseball that's messing up with even it's the most hallowed ground Hall of Fame. I mean, let's not forget the Football Hall of Fame didn't vote T.O. in for 3 years. And I mean, he wasn't nice, but I mean, he's the Bonds in terms of numbers career-wise. Yeah. It's impossible to tell that story without
they miss out on a whole bunch of guys. So
yeah, and Shannon Sharp had to wait a bunch of years. So there are we'll see. I mean, but no, Hall of Famer. I don't immediately want to Andrew Jones. It's unfortunate, but I would not put him in. I think Schilling's a weird situation just because there's so many of those postseason moments that people could argue how do you tell the story without.
I think he is a Hall of Famer personally. But
I wouldn't have a problem with him getting in. It's very similar, to be honest, even though he didn't win Cy Youngs, with Doc Holliday, where they were dominating over brief stretches.
When you can,
Doc's better, but he had those playoff moments. The wins weren't there, but who cares about wins anymore?
Yeah.
So I would put him in.
When you can elevate your game to be better than Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez's game when they were both in their prime. But they were both in their prime on his team, and he was better than both of them in those World Series runs. You're a Hall of Famer in my book. All right, well, that's all we got. We went a little long, but I thought we had a really good time. Mike, thank you for joining me. Happy birthday tomorrow when this comes out.
Thank you.
27 has never looked so good.
I'm not far away from that. I have a 3 in front, but I'm not far away from that. In the early 30s.
So you're looking at a 1-year contract if you're an MLB free agent.
I don't know.
If you're in your 30s,
I can bet on myself. I'll sign a 1-year deal. I will bet on myself. I'll go in there. I'll crank 30+ home runs, and I'll get a longer term deal, and I'll fool somebody later. You'll
get signed by the Pirates and then traded to LA, and
I'll win a championship, and then
win a pennant.
Complain that I somehow won a pennant, and I'll get my face in a video game. Induct me in the Hall of Fame sometime soon.
Be sure to give us a follow on social media. Like, rate, comment, subscribe. Do it all. You all know the deal. Thank you for coming along and joining us, folks. On Beaver County through Beaver County Auto Studios. Thank you to our sponsor. We'll see you next time.